This content is brought to you by Uphold, which is a great platform that makes it easy and simple for you to buy, hold, and sell and earn crypto. You can trade from anything to anything. For example, you can trade between cryptocurrencies and precious metals. It's an amazing platform that I've been using for years. And in fact, I still use to this day because they're one, a great exchange, they're reputable, and they're one of the only exchanges that still lists XRP. Many of the other exchanges have delisted XRP due to the SEC lawsuit, but you can still get XRP on Uphold. So I've interviewed the CEO, the founder, and many other representatives from Uphold over the years, and I'm a fan of this platform. And once again, there's some great features like trading between different assets very easily. You don't have to convert to a currency and so forth. They're used by 10 plus million users. They have over 200 cryptocurrencies. And they have a very easy to use app. The interface is really nice. So I can certainly vouch for this platform. Once again, I've been a user for years. So if you'd like to learn more about Uphold, please visit the link in the description. Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. With me today is Ron Hammond, who's the Director of Government Relations of the Blockchain Association. Ron, great to have you back on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Ron, big news today, big announcement from the White House around their stance on cryptocurrency regulations. We'd love for you to give us your perspective and what you're seeing and hearing in DC.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. So for those who may or may not remember, back on March 9th, actually, the White House announced their executive order on crypto. And the idea was basically to task a bunch of agencies to study crypto in their own sphere, would be more of a national security angle, more of an environmental impact angle, more fraud, waste, abuse. And the idea is, hey, come up with recommendations either to Congress or to agencies to make sure that this technology stays here in America. And a lot of folks are actually akin it to the internet when the Clinton administration did something similar, where they put out this executive order. And this actually kind of laid the groundwork for a lot of the policy that did end up becoming the law that kept a lot of these tech companies and internet companies here in the United States. And so we really saw this as an industry, at least here in DC, as a great first step forward from the Biden administration. Unfortunately, I think this is kind of a missed opportunity. There was a lot more criticism of the industry. Now, mind you, there was also a lot of good positive takeaways from this, especially when it came to helping those on the underserved or underbanked side. Potentially the technology itself being great for things we already know, like faster payments and such. But at the same time, very critical as well of both its use cases in ransomware attacks, as well as for those who are not either paying their taxes on their gains and losses, or in this case, the mining situation. Now, the mining report did not come out with this whole batch on Friday. It actually came out last week. Yeah. But very critical. There's still more reports to come. But the good thing is that there's not too much action items, at least for agencies. A lot of it also doesn't really fall to Congress either. So this is more of a positioning paper. But as an industry, we're pretty disappointed in terms of just how much it was a little bit off the mark from what we've been talking to a lot of folks in the administration.
Yeah, that's a statement I thought of. It missed the mark because it just seemed like the same thing repeated. Yes, a little tweaks and a bit more information, but it's like, okay, so what? What now?
Exactly. And I mean, now mind you too, we're not looking for something that says, crypto is the best thing ever and there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's also really important to say, look, we want to make sure we show that there are some areas the industry can improve on. I think the proof of stake merge with the Ethereum has been something that kind of shows, at least to the folks in DC, that they do take the environment seriously. There has been a lot of pushback from the use case of or usage of a lot of electricity in states like New York, but also here in DC, there's a lot of grief from Democrats, especially on the environmental impact proof of work. And so there's a lot more celebrating of this merge, for example, here. But at the same time, there really was not much in talks in terms of, hey, this innovation is fantastic. We got to keep that here. It's been a lot more just criticisms. And our hope is that we can convey, at least to the folks in the administration, that this is a really important technology that benefits so many Americans. Let's get this right. And let's make sure we embrace this technology, not be the ones who are a little draconian and say, nah, we don't want that here. because another country is going to take this technology and run with it, and we really jeopardize America's global leadership in both finance and tech.
Yeah, absolutely. So, are there any next steps from this, or is just maybe these agencies are going to go do some more discussions around how they see the market, and eventually we'll get to some sort of bill and law that's going to be passed by Congress?
Yeah, actually, so Patrick McHenry, he's the lead Republican in the House Financial Services, said it best, in my opinion. And he said, look, this all falls into Congress. Congress is the one who legislates, not the agencies. We are the ones who should take over when it comes to running the rules of the road, not the White House. And that's not coming from more of a Republican versus Democrat position. It's just more Congress needs to cede authority here and say, look, this is our issue area. This is something that we were specifically designed for. We should come up with the rules and recommendations. And candidly, too, the process in Congress is a lot more transparent to the American public. You can see how amendments are shaping up. You can see what bills are introduced. There's a process that everyone knows and abides by. So we want to make sure that Congress asserts its role here and says it's a tough technology to understand and even tougher to regulate sometimes. But studies like this are great, laying the groundwork in terms of understanding the issue area and what comes next. And so for those who are wondering, there's not any ban or anything like that's going to happen from this report. There's no central bank digital currency that's going to be approved, or it's going to start the process of creating right now. These are all just studies. Now, mind you, again, this can make these things more partisan here in DC, which is our hope doesn't happen. And we're going to be making sure to highlight, again, some of the benefits to both sides of the aisle here. But at the same time, this can also be a great groundswell saying, I think they got it wrong here and there. Let's improve on it. Let's move forward, and let's come up with some good regulation in this space that makes sense for both the industry as well as retail investors.
For sure. So would the next step be for the Blockchain Association and your team to start talking to the White House staff and the administration that's working on these reports and having these discussions?
Yeah, actually, so we've been engaged with the agencies for quite some time. Yeah, I don't think I can talk about which agencies in particular reached out to us like right off the bat, but on March 10th, when the EO was announced, we had a couple of agencies right off the bat reach out to us, and other groups as well, and companies who have DC presence. And again, I stress really heavily that it's really important to have a DC presence because of these conversations. And then they met with us for several times or several hours in some cases. We brought folks from the industry, whether it be actual CEOs or policy leaders, and show them, look, here's where our opinion is, where the industry's at, where we can improve on. Obviously, we're highlighting our concerns with the SEC, our desire to have the CFTC more involved. But a lot of these conversations were more focused also on like national security and ransomware, where there already is a pretty negative opinion. And rightfully so in many cases. A lot of folks, especially on the national security side, are very much concerned about the Colonial Pipeline attack. Ransomware is top of mind for them, and they come up with a pretty negative view even to begin with. And we're trying to show them, look, the traceability of this technology is fantastic. And actually, this is going to be a great resource for you guys because you can utilize software developers or software development like Chainalysis, Elliptic, Solidus, and others to chase and track the bad actors really easily than you could with the traditional financial system or cash. So, there was some acknowledgement again of those conversations, but mind you, also they're talking to a bunch of crypto skeptics. They're talking to a bunch of academics. They're talking to a bunch of folks from other jurisdictions internationally. And so there's a holistic view that the administration needed to survey in order to come up with these reports. Not all the agencies were as interested in reaching out to folks in the industry than others were. But, the good thing is that we're having these conversations and we are engaged. But it takes a lot of folks from the industry to really make sure the message is delivered properly because as many folks know in the crypto space, you're not going to learn about this whole issue area in one or two or three meetings. And it takes a lot of time and dedication. And there was a lot of subject matter expertise in these reports. I mean, the people who made these reports, the staff, definitely put some time into this. It's very technical. So I think that shows the industry is very good at educating folks. Now we just got to work on, doing a better job probably of highlighting the best case scenarios in this space and what the potential is, because I think a lot of folks are saying, I'm not really seeing much here. And the truth is we've seen a lot happen in crypto not even just this week, this month, but this past year has been really amazing for the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to talk about the hearing yesterday. We had both the CFTC chairman who spoke, and then SEC chairman Gary Gensler as well. We'd love to talk about the takeaways and what you saw and heard. Senator Pat Toomey had an interesting discussion with Gary Gensler on decentralization versus centralization.
That was by far the most technical and in-depth line of question I've seen from Senator Toomey, and actually probably any senator when it comes to Chair Gensler. I was talking to several offices before the hearing, and we're wondering, what questions can we ask him that we can get a response from? From those you may not remember, too, there's been a huge issue, at least with Chair Gensler, that these responses from Congress or these questions from Congress aren't really getting much if any, response from Gary Gensler, which has been really frustrating. They do have some legitimate concerns, crypto, but also outside crypto as well. And he has really not been accommodating those responses. And so you also got to remember that he can't really talk about ongoing court cases. And so when you have to talk about or ask him questions, you have to really keep it hypothetical, because if you talk about, let's say, the Ripple case, for example, or the Coinbase situation, talking about individual cases, he can easily defer and say, look, this is in the courts. This is not in my wheelhouse anymore. We're just kind of wait for the courts to decide. So that's why you didn't see any of those questions on that front ever being asked, because here in DC, we all know that's the answer you're going to get. But Senator Toomey did a good job focusing on decentralization, which that's the crux here of many of the questions that we have in DC is, when something is fully decentralized, A, how do you define that? But B, what's your thoughts, SEC? What is fully decentralized for you? And Gary Gensler is really sharp. He's an incredibly smart guy, but you can even see he was looking for words and a little struggling too, which I'd love to see Senator Toomey keep drilling down that aspect. And I think the big thing that we were also more taken away from was when Gary Gensler said to, I believe, his Senator Rounds, that there were 6 companies that had registered with the SEC. And that's something that he's been clamoring for quite some time, is that exchanges especially come and talk to us at the SEC, come register. And the question we were all having at the Blockchain Association, but also with other staffers, was, who are these companies? I don't actually remember that. So we're still trying to track that down right now. I'm sure Senator Toomey is going to follow up with that, but that was definitely something we were a little puzzled by.
Yeah, interesting conversation they had. And to your point of who those companies are. Is there another upcoming hearing that Gary Gensler will be, grilled on a bit more on these things?
No, unfortunately, it seems like the House is not going to get their shot to have an oversight hearing of the SEC. Again, usually these happen once a year. And if the Senate goes and has the SEC in front of them, the House usually has one too. But in a really rare situation, the House Financial Services Committee has decided not to have a hearing with Chair Gensler at the moment. There's a chance that we could have one in December, maybe, but it seems unlikely. So we probably won't be seeing Chair Gensler in front of Congress potentially for 6 months plus, which is a little concerning, because there's this feeling here in DC that the regulators are ready to take some enforcement actions against the industry. I think a lot of that does stem, though, from the market turmoil. And I think also, even back to the White House executive order, I think it would have been a little bit different if the Celsius, the Terra, and Three Arrows situation hadn't occurred in this time span. But this is what happens in DC, is that when there is a lot of folks who are harmed, whether the institutional side or retail side, DC notices, and DC says, what can we do to make sure that never happens again? And so it's been a lot of defense playing here in DC, but also, at the same time, I want to make sure folks understand, for every person within the administration or Congress who's anti-crypto, there's 5 or 6 now who are pro-crypto. So we definitely outnumber those in DC who are against or skeptical of this industry, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah. And do you feel that, the big institutions that are entering the market, like BlackRock and so forth, are going to help, as far as the political machine, so to speak, they could lobby or, give campaign donations to those who are pro-crypto, and that could help as well?
It definitely can. We've seen it work for other industries before, but I will say that the crypto industry in particular has really stepped up this past year. The crypto donations to campaigns and policymakers has really gone through the roof. Whether it be individuals like SBF or groups like Coinbase who've been, launching other efforts, or even us at the Blockchain Association who just launched our PAC actually. So it's been a huge issue when I was on Capitol Hill was that there was just no political machine for crypto. It takes a long time to build these political machines and these coalitions. But we have a lot of allies here in DC, both within Congress and the administration, and also on the advocacy side and education side. So I've been texting with a lot of my fellow colleagues, my lobbyist friends, as well as advocates as well. And it's been pretty awesome to see that how large this universe has expanded. At least when I was in Congress back in 2017, 2018 as a staffer, it was like 3 people. So it's been cool to see how that has exploded to now 300.
Wow. Is there any upcoming reports or hearings or anything along those lines that we should be aware of in the coming month or so?
Yeah, so there should be some more reports coming out from the White House executive order. It can probably be some good, some bad. But again, at the end of the day, these are just studies. And so I'd stay tuned for that. We have the big bank hearing. This is kind of the ultimate hearing for financial services and Senate banking, the Super Bowl of all hearings. So I think it's 7 big bank CEOs will be coming into town next week, testifying in person. And a lot of folks really want to use this to hammer the banks or to go after them. So crypto can easily come up in that situation. Besides that, there's some other small hearings here or there. There's a chance that we'll see some developments on the stablecoin bill that's been hyped up so much with Maxine Waters and Patrick McHenry. I will caution, though, we're running out of time in Congress, so it's pretty unlikely that bill's going to get signed into law, but it's going to be a good first step. And especially with this report on stablecoins, or this report focusing on stablecoins for the executive order, I think it's very timely, too. And lastly, I will say there's this, we mentioned the CFTC, Chair Benham was in front of the Senate Agriculture Committee. There's a bill right now to allow the CFTC to have more regulatory authority in crypto. It's from Senator Stabenow and Senator Bozeman, so very senior bipartisan senators. There are some concerns, though, with the definitions of the bill, and it's always tough to create definitions. I personally know as a Hill staffer, it's really tough, and there actually is no rules of the road beforehand. Like these are all new definitions most of the time. And so it's always tough to make those definitions, but we're hoping to improve it because right now it does seem like it could potentially ban DeFi, even though that's not the intention. It's just that this language could be written or interpreted in such a way. So we're working to improve that. I think we're going to make some success there. That bill might make some progress as well, but like the stablecoin bill, it's going to be really tough to get that across the line before December ends. So I think 2023, especially the first 6 months, it's off to the races with crypto policy. So buckle up.
So it's looking like 2023, middle of 2023 is when we might maybe see, like you said, like some comprehensive crypto regulations, stablecoin regulations, and things along those lines.
Yep. But in the meantime, probably enforcement actions in the interim, which is going to be unfortunate. We'll see what happens. Again, things like tornado cash you can never predict are going to happen, and then they all of a sudden do. And that shifts the narrative so much here in DC. But that's the upside of crypto policy. There's never a boring week. It seems to get busier and busier each time.
Well, I guess that's a good sign, right? Crypto is becoming a hot topic, a main topic. So at least we're in the discussion, and there's discussions happening and planning happening as well.
Exactly. In the words of Senator Gillibrand from New York, crypto is here for good, and every senator has recognized that. So now we're kind of in the bottom of the 3rd inning right now, or 4th inning, but we still have a long ways to go.
For sure. Ron, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for the information.
Anytime.